What's going on, guys? It's Carroll from MyMMAnews.com and Carroll's Corner MMA podcast. Today, I'm joined by the ring announcer and one and only Mike Falvo. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing fabulous, man. We're all hunkered down here at the stately Falvo Manor. You can see I'm in my beautiful study, aka my bedroom. No, we're doing good. We're snowed in, but we're good.
Did you guys get a lot of snow upstate? I know here on Long Island there was a little bit, but where I live, we didn't really get any. It was all rain.
I think they were predicting, I want to say like 18 to 24 inches. I mean, my car's covered, so I'm going to be busy tomorrow shoveling. I'm not worrying about that mess today. We did get quite a bit though. So, but what are you going to do? It's January. It's upstate New York. What do you expect?
Definitely. And at least we have the day off tomorrow for Martin Luther King Day. So we're going to hop right in. Mike, I had the privilege of getting to meet you through Cage Wars, which is an awesome event that takes place upstate. Now they're hosting their events at the Rivers Casino and Resort in Schenectady, New York. Always a great time going to those events. It's been great getting to know you. You're definitely a big sports fan. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into ring announcing, and I know you also do it for a couple other sporting teams, basketball, football, or the indoor football upstate. Tell us a little bit how you got into it.
Well, the funny thing is, it all began as a joke. I think I was a sophomore in high school, and we had gone to, it was like a girls' junior varsity basketball game. It was, one of those high school matchups that happens at like 4 o'clock on a Tuesday. Not diminishing the importance of junior varsity athletics at all. It's very important. But myself and a group of friends, we went to the game, and for one reason or another, the announcer wasn't able to do the game. So guidance counselor gets on the microphone and says, hey, if anybody wants to call the game, raise their hand. So guy sitting next to me, my buddy Rob, points to me and says, Falvo will do it. And I'm sitting there with a mouthful of popcorn like, I'm going to do what now? Had absolutely no clue. And he said, yeah, he'll announce the game. And I said, yeah, sure, why not? Called the game. A couple days later, coach pulled me aside and said, hey, we're very impressed with what we heard. Would you like to do our games full time? And as they say, the rest is history. Since then, I've called games in, New York, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, England, Portugal, Japan, Korea, Texas, Korea twice, I might add, in 2001 and 2011, Texas, and then here in New York. So I'm world traveled, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Because of being a ring announcer, you've gotten the ability to travel the world. Although I do know you were also in the Air Force, correct?
I was for 12 years, which again contributes to the world travel. I served in the Air Force for 12 years as a broadcaster, so I've done a lot of radio work in the military. Awesome. For any of my veteran friends out there, veteran brothers and sisters, a lot of those awful commercials on AFN, many of them are probably my fault, and I apologize. They know what I'm talking about. If you've never seen any of these commercials, go to YouTube and just search for AFN commercials. You'll see what I'm talking about, and you'll know why I'm apologizing.
Will do. I'm going to definitely have to check it out after.
The ring announcing aspect actually just started last year in 2017, 2018. I had done basketball for the majority of my, I guess you'd call it career, majority of my life, but I wanted to expand. I had always been a fan of combat sports, UFC, boxing, Muay Thai. I wrestled in high school. I dabbled in boxing a little bit here and there in high school and college, mostly from a training standpoint, not competitive.
Okay.
But I had always been a fan of mixed martial arts. One of my earliest memories of mixed martial arts was, you might remember this actually, years ago, New Year's Eve, UFC used to do the marathons on pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
You would drop, back then I think it was like $60 or $70, but you would get every UFC up to that point on New Year's Eve. And you could start watching at like noon and they would run all night long. My father used to get those, and we used to love watching those. So that was my first real exposure to mixed martial arts, and I've been a fan ever since. Um, and then really getting involved in cage wars was just a matter of sending an email to the promoters or sending a Facebook message saying, hey, I call the matches or I call the basketball games at the Armory. This is what else I do. I'd love to help out in any way that I can. Luck would have it that the main promoter, Tim, he was doing some work at the Armory at the time and had heard me announce, and we just hooked up, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. Yeah, when you're in there, you definitely do a great job. Very professional and clear when you do it. I feel a lot of times everyone always tries to put a little their own shtick to it and kind of get away from what's important, which is the fighters and their names being heard and everything like that. And I think you do a phenomenal job when you do it. And
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. I really do.
yeah, and it's awesome because now, like me and Will, we do the commentating for those who don't know. But now that it's being aired and stuff, can forth and give you the point and ready to go, and then you give us the point when you're ready, and it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good little thing we got going. So, tell us a little bit about. I know you do the indoor football. Tell us a little bit about that and what that's like doing it.
It is a completely different experience. If you have never seen arena football,
It's awesome.
it's awesome. B, it's oh man, I likened it to like back in the day when you played football, street football.
Mm-hmm.
And you get with your friends and you're like, all right, you go to the telephone pole and then you cut in and everything. It's similar to that in the sense where the field is very contained, so everything is sped up. You play, the field is 50 yards, end zone to end zone. And I can't remember the exact dimensions off the top of my head, sideline to sideline, but it's very fast paced. It's very, very high scoring. It's not very unusual to have scores in the 70s and 80s for either team.
It's wild. It's definitely not. It's like almost like video game football when you think about it.
It is. It is. It's awesome. And if you've never been to a game, I highly suggest you go to a game. Come see the Albany Empire. That's what I call a shameless plug, and I'm very proud to give it. But not only that, from the PA announcer standpoint, I sit between the two teams.
Oh, cool.
Because you have, to my left is the Empire, and then to my right is whoever we're playing that week. So I get to hear the banter between the two sides, a lot of which I probably can't repeat here or in a family setting. So we'll just leave it at that. But the experience in itself, it's awesome. And especially from a PA announcer standpoint, it's even better because you get to see the inner workings of how arena football works, and you talk to the officials and all that other stuff. The fan experience, being in the Times Union Center, calling football games in front of 9,000-10,000 people on any given Saturday night it's just awesome in itself, being in that building, and you can feel, I know it's cliched, you can feel the electricity, but for the Albany Empire, it is true. It is 100% true. It was nothing but electric the entire season. Came that close to hosting the Arena Bowl.
That'd be pretty sweet. I know they used to have the Long Island Dragons here on Long Island at Nassau Coliseum, and unfortunately that team folded, which is unfortunate because as a football fan, like I love all football, and I know people are like, oh, well, you have shirts of all different teams. I just love football, so I support all kinds, but the fact that it's not there anymore, it's unfortunate because you can't get, it's a heck of an experience, and I am rocking my throwback Chiefs hat as they are playing tonight. Big Chiefs fan, been up my whole life, so I'm pretty pumped about that. But when you're talking about the electric in the stadium, how does that compare to, say, MMA? Because I've been around sports my entire life, and I really think MMA just has that something about the crowd, and it just goes nuts. It's so different compared to any other sport I've ever been a part of. And I've been a part of lacrosse, football, wrestling, hockey, everything, anything you could think of. It's just a different type of atmosphere.
Well, both sports are similar in the sense that anything can happen at any time,
Hmm.
especially arena football. I mean, there were moments in arena football when, um, the team is down, but one pass can change the entire game. And the same with mixed martial arts. A fighter can
Hmm.
be down in points or, even in a down position. Now, full disclosure, I have never trained Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I have
Hmm.
never trained, in a lot of the styles that these guys and girls have trained in. So I'm not going to sit here and try to spout off, oh, well, such and such in full guard or half guard or whatever. I'm going to leave that to you and Will. And I'm going to be honest with you. But, I have seen instances where a fighter has been in a down position and they've turned the fight around just like that.
Hmm.
I think they're similar in the sense that anything can happen at any time, and that's part of the excitement about it is you never know what's going to happen. Um, but the fan base is a little different. With your diehard
Hmm.
football fans, they will come out and they will look for a football game. They'll look for a strategy on the field. They'll sit there and say, "Oh, well, they're going three wide receivers right. They're going to try to pull off this move." Whereas with mixed martial arts, I've seen even coaches, will look for a certain strategy and something may not work. So their guy applies something else in the cage and it works beautifully. And just the excitement, I mean, just the
Hmm.
explosion from the fans is completely different. And that's part of the beauty of the sport.
Definitely. And now I understand you also have a podcast you've been doing. I think you said you took a little hiatus from it, just trying to get things in order. Tell us a little bit about
Mm-hmm.
your podcast, what you guys speak about, and what are some of your goals with it?
Well, the podcast that I was doing before was a podcast called The Fourth Wall. The Fourth Wall was focused on independent pro wrestling here in the Northeast. I am a
Okay.
pro wrestling guy. I've been a pro wrestling fan my entire life. I am open to admit it. Um, I am a trained pro wrestler as well. I'm open to admit that too. I trained in the United Kingdom in
Nice.
2002 to 2003. For those of you that are curious, yes, tights, boots, the whole nine. I actually have my tights and my gear behind me here. No, I'm not going to put them on, Kyle. Don't get excited. Um, but the whole storytelling aspect aside. But we discussed pro wrestling in the Northeast and mixed martial arts in the Northeast. That has been kind of put to the wayside. What I'm working on now is a podcast with the Albany Empire called State of the Empire. During the regular season, the Empire have a regular radio show, State of the Empire. They have coaches, players come on, and they talk about the state of the Albany Empire. Um, well, now we are doing it in podcast form.
Awesome.
Same thing. Myself and 8 Big Canal, the on-air voice of the Albany Empire. His voice is heard like if you were to listen to the team on the radio, on the
Hmm.
PA announcer, so it only makes sense. Our first our first show, we had the COO of the Albany Empire, a gentleman by the name of George Manias, come in and kind of give us an overview of the first season from a management standpoint with the Albany Empire and what we can look forward to moving forward with the Arena Football League and the Albany Empire. And I can tell you right now from conversations I've had, it's going to be an exciting time to be an arena football fan, really a football fan in
Hmm.
general.
Yeah, I love just the aspect of arena football. We're talking about, the boards, you hit the crazy hits, different types of hits, less people on the field, high scoring, and then
Mm-hmm.
and it's on when NFL isn't on usually. So it's like you get your fix of football when college and NFL isn't going on. And anyone who doesn't like take arena football serious is, I think, nuts, because you got guys like Kurt Warner coming out of there and numerous other athletes who are played in the NFL or are playing in the NFL. So they definitely should take that aspect of football serious.
Oh, I'll tell you what, these guys are no joke. They
Hmm.
are no joke at all, and I had people come up to me and say, "Oh, well, it's a bunch of guys couldn't make it in the NFL, couldn't get drafted, blah blah blah." Um, you know what? There are a lot of former NFL players in the Arena Football League, but these guys
Hmm.
are world class athletes. There
Yep.
is absolutely no question about it. Take, for example, our quarterback here at the Albany Empire, Tommy Grady, quarterback for Utah a number of years ago. Granted, he spent most of his career in the Arena Football League. He's an athlete, he's a
Hmm.
stud on the field. One of his top connections for the Empire this year, Joe Hills. Again, he's a guy he spent the majority of his professional career in the Arena Football League, but he is considered one of the greatest receivers in Arena Football League history for a reason.
That's awesome.
Some of the plays this guy made this season are unreal. You can go to YouTube and you can look them up. We had guys like Malachi Jones, AFL Rookie of the Year this year. He lit up the Times Union Center all season long. Got an offer from the Chicago Bears. Now he's with the Atlanta Legends of the Alliance for American Football, which is another football league that's kicking off in February. So, like
Awesome.
I said, um, a great time to be a football fan.
Definitely. Most definitely. Well, how can people hear your podcast? Where can they find it?
Well, the podcast is actually going to be up on the Albany Empire football page, which
Okay.
is www.thealbanyempire.com. We're working on some final bugs with the RSS feed. Any
Okay.
techies out there know what I'm talking about. But working on some final bugs. It'll be up very soon. But it is on SoundCloud as well. You can find it on
Awesome.
SoundCloud. Just look up Albany Empire. The page will pop up. Week 1 is already there. We're like I said, we're working on getting it on the Albany Empire team page, which should be very soon. But I highly suggest anybody who loves football or is curious about arena football, maybe you've heard the hype and you want to learn
Hmm.
more, go to thealbanyempire.com. Look us up, learn about the team, learn about the league. You can also, Google search Arena Football League. Look them up at official AFL on social media, Twitter, Instagram, what have you. It's all there.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna take a look at some of the highlights and definitely check out your podcast as well.
Oh yeah.
That should be
Oh yeah.
awesome. And then speaking about like atmospheres and shows and stuff, like I do a lot of interviews with fighters in general, but a lot of them are Cage Wars fighters that are coming up on the show. The 40th installment of their promotion on February 9th. Pretty good, pretty solid card coming up. It's a night of champions. There'll be several belts on the line. Any fight that particular stands out to you? I know you got Bob Buskey and Travis Streeter who are making, I think, headlines and waves across the internet right now as they're just trash
That
talking.
one I am definitely looking for. First of all, any fight that involves two guys with the nicknames Jits Panda and Beef Train,
Yup.
I'm there for. Front row center with a bag of popcorn, brother. I can tell you right now, I'm going to make the announcements for that one as quick as possible because I want to see that fight. That is going to be a fantastic fight. I know Travis, personally, and I know Travis is a very hard trainer,
Mm-hmm.
very hard worker, and so is Bob. So is Bob. I've been following Bob on social media. I don't know him personally, but I've been following both of these guys for their careers, and both of them are very hard workers in and out of the gym. This is going to be a great fight. I can tell you right now. I honestly cannot predict a winner. I can't.
Yeah,
Um,
it's because I know had a grappling match before, but that's entirely different. This is
right.
advanced amateur rules for those who don't know. Advanced amateur rules in New York. You're not wearing headgear or shin guards and all, but they have novice rules with 2 or less fights. So this is advanced amateur rules, and now it could go to the ground, but they both have jujitsu and wrestling, and then they stand up and striking. I agree with you. I have zero clue where this fight's gonna go. I just think it's gonna be a brawl, though. Both guys, like you said, beef train, and Jits Panda. It's gonna be fireworks.
And I joke with Travis on the side. I tell him he needs to just come out with the sound of an old school locomotive whistle.
That'd be awesome. Like a big, like almost like a hockey horn when you score.
Better yet, oh my God, who was that? The early '90s group that used to do that song, "Come on, ride that train
Oh,
and ride it." I'm not
Yeah,
a
that'd be
singer at
awesome.
all. I'm not a singer, so
No,
please.
either am I. But yeah, so I'm pretty pumped for that card. There's, I think, 13 fights on that card. It's pretty stacked. Some excellent matchups. So, like you said, you'll be announcing, you'll be the ring
Hmm.
announcer for that. Myself and Will Barry will be cage side giving the commentary. Pretty pumped for
Definitely.
that. Always a full house at the casino. A beautiful venue. Have you been up to the casino? Like, I know you don't live too far from there, but have you been there besides fighting or anything like that, or check out the casino?
You know what? Never. Honestly, I haven't made my way up there yet to take in the atmosphere, to actually, maybe go play a machine or two, or go
Mm-hmm.
play a game of poker or whatever, even just to see the restaurants. But when we do go up there for weigh-ins or the fights or what have you, I like to walk around and just kind of take it in, and it's a
Yep.
beautiful place. It's gorgeous.
Absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, and it's very clean and staff is friendly. The hotel
Oh
rooms are
yeah.
absolutely beautiful.
I haven't been in the hotel part yet,
Yeah, the
and I
hotel.
and I keep telling myself, because I love the atmosphere, and I want to hang around for the after parties and
Hmm.
everything. But I'm a husband and a father, so
No, yeah, priorities. Family's priority for sure.
oh
Um,
yeah.
Now, speaking of, we're talking MMA. Shift gears a little.
Hmm.
For your day job, your full time job, you're working in politics. You're
Yes.
sitting there alone while they're passing bills. Tell us a
Hmm.
little bit about what you do exactly, and then I'm gonna get more in depth about like the MMA bill.
Sure. I am what they call a media coordinator. So, for example, if you are a politician and you're working on a specific bill,
Hmm.
and you have a soundbite that you want to get back to your home news station, you being from Long Island, we'll use that as an example. You have a soundbite, or you want to give your opinion on a specific bill and get it back to Long Island, but you're in Albany. You come see me. We'll
Okay.
sit there, we'll record the clip for you, and we'll send it back to your home station, or we'll send back any um, audio visual items that you may want to get back to your home station. You would come see me.
Okay.
Also, anybody in New York that has seen the New York Legislative Channel, which is our version of C-SPAN,
Hmm.
essentially. You can watch session hearings. You can watch the assembly session live. That is done through my office as well.
Awesome. Now, well, we're talking about the MMA and stuff, and you're
Hmm.
sitting in there while bills are being passed. Can you talk about, without going into like um, partisan side of things,
Hmm.
the bill and what it was like to be in there when they're passing the bill? You have fighters coming in and talking. You have legislation being talked about. What was it like being there for all of that as the bill's being passed?
From a fan perspective, it was like watching two very skilled technicians go at it in the cage. You're on the edge of your seat, kind of watching back
Mm-hmm.
and forth and trying to strategize who was going to do what. Um, Now, again, without getting too much into the political end of it, because that's not what we're here to talk. We're,
Mm-hmm.
we're not here to debate politics.
Nope, not at all.
Um, I was very excited to see it pass because, in my opinion, it was long overdue. And it
Mm-hmm.
only made sense when you think of, for those of you that are not in the know, or were really unclear about what it was. Amateur mixed martial arts in the state of New York was legal. You
Mm-hmm.
could go to your local YMCA and see some local fighters, local, guys and gals fight at an amateur level, but big fights, UFC level fights, fights that would headline the Garden, say, for example, were illegal for one reason or another. Again, won't get into
Mm-hmm.
details about it. Well, a couple of years ago, the bill finally hit the floor. They debated, the bill passed, and it went on to be signed, and professional mixed martial arts events were legalized in the state of New York. State of New York, one of the last states to do so.
Yep.
But I remember watching the debate back and forth in the anticipation, and just hearing everything happen as a fan was really exciting for me. It was a great moment. It was well overdue. Like you mentioned, a lot of fighters. Chris Weidman was a big one, a big advocate.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of local promoters and local fighters were coming out and speaking in favor of the bill, which, like I said, was well overdue. But from a fan perspective, I was extremely happy to finally see it pass. And you could see some of these fighters finally get their opportunity to fight in the Garden. Chris is a New York guy.
Yep.
So his thing was, I want to fight in front of my friends and family and not have them take a flight to Vegas or somewhere else. So he was able to do that. But also, it generated a ton of revenue for the state of New York. I believe the first event they held at Madison Square Garden, I think the number was somewhere $40 million.
Wow. Just for one event.
Just one night.
Yeah.
Generated somewhere close to $40 million in revenue. So it's definitely a moneymaker. But as in general, it was a good day. It was a great day to be an MMA fan, to finally see the bill passed. And from my standpoint, being there to see it happen was like being cage side at a big fight. And that's the best way I can put it.
Was there a lot of cheering, a lot of hugging, high fiving? I don't know if there's high fiving going on in there, but was everyone pretty stoked?
What's that?
Was everyone like ecstatic that this is passing inside once it cleared?
Yeah, there was some, not necessarily cheering and clapping, but a lot of relief, I think, because there were a number of people who felt it was well overdue.
Definitely.
Myself being one of them. I know that there were some advocates that were in the Capitol when it passed, so there was definitely a lot of cheering from them. Some of the opponents of the bill, obviously we're quiet about it, but, I can't really speak for them, but, the general consensus was it was well overdue. It was time. And I agree with that 100%.
Well, definitely. And you think about it, New York's just been like a wealth of combat sports almost. The boxers that have come out of here, the wrestlers, the kickboxers, the amount of just for population alone, there's a gazillion people. So you just there's going to be a bigger pool of talent in the area. But just thinking about it, just the background and boxing and everything else and combat sports, Madison Square Garden, known for boxing matches.
How many legendary fights have happened at the Garden?
Tons, numerous. You can't even count on two hands. So it's just, I think it was just, like you said, long overdue. Last state to finally pass it. I was glad to finally see they did it. And now, since they've done it, this last night, Brooklyn, they're in there for the UFC fights. You have the UFC coming in numerous times. You've had Bellator come in a few times, and they're coming back soon. Amateur promotions
and it's bigger. It's not just New York City. You look at the places that UFC has been to since the bill has passed.
Yeah, upstate.
Obviously, first fight Madison Square Garden. They've been to Brooklyn just last night, and Brooklyn put on a hell of a show.
Yep.
They've been to Utica. They've been to Buffalo. They've been to Rochester. And they're adding more places, and you're seeing it spread out across the state, not just New York City.
Long Island,
Long Island, and to me, that's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely, yeah, because it's not just not just the people in the city or in that area, immediate area, getting to witness it. They're bouncing all over the state, and everyone in New York is getting to witness the greatness of all the great fighters and just the luxury of having a promotion like that, which is awesome.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And, I think it creates more opportunities for these amateur fighters that are taking it serious and want to go to the next level as a professional.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's a great thing. I know last night we were talking about UFC. That took place, first ESPN event. I know you said you weren't really getting to watch it. Dillashaw gets TKO'd in 32 seconds.
I'm sorry, not when you have a 4-year-old. She dominates the TV some nights. Daddy wanted to watch, but 4-year-old wanting to watch cartoons.
Totally understandable, definitely.
Yeah.
But to be honest, watching it because you had to watch it online for the main event because the ESPN Plus now, which I'm not a huge fan of. I think it's going to take away from a lot of viewership. It went from ESPN Plus to at the early prelims, then the prelims on ESPN, which were some
Mhm.
good fights. Ended with Donald Cerrone knocking out Hernandez, which was a phenomenal fight through 2 rounds.
Mhm.
And I think we'll definitely draw some new fans being on ESPN, and then back to ESPN Plus. But the thing with ESPN Plus, it was glitching for me, and I know a lot of other people were complaining, glitching, kicking you off, and just freezing at times, and it was tough to watch it. So it was a little frustrating. I'm sure they'll fix those little mistakes, but you want to watch it on the TV, you know what I mean? Not the computer or the tablet.
Right. I know from a television production standpoint, the first night you're always going to have glitches, you're
Mm-hmm.
always going to have bugs that need to be worked out, and that can happen first night or your 100th night. There's always going to be bugs, there's always going to be glitches. Um, I like I said, I didn't get to watch it unfortunately, but I saw a lot of the reviews of it, and I saw, I kept track of who won fights,
Mm-hmm.
and the one thing that really stood out to me, and you and I were kind of going on about this a little bit, Greg Hardy.
Oh yeah. So now I almost believe him that he didn't do it, but at the same time, it's tough to just because of his history and everything else. But listening to him in the post conference, he did seem genuine, and there was no PR guy who wrote something for him. It seemed like it was coming from the heart. That he was upset about it, upset that he disappointed everyone that came to watch him. But and I understand it's only his third or fourth fight in the octagon, but you got to
Right.
know the rules. You got to know better and understand the timing a little bit better. I know he was trying to catch him with a kick or a knee as he's coming up, but one knee's solid, the other one's up, but he just blasted him blatantly with that knee, and he
My
got a
thing
lot of
is,
boos.
like you mentioned, it was his third or fourth fight in the octagon. If it was his first fight,
Hmm.
okay, I would give him the benefit of, first fight, big venue, Barclays Center, big venue, big night, jitters. Okay, I can probably see it, but bro, it's your third or fourth fight
Yeah.
in the UFC. You should know the rules by now.
And it's
And
disappointing because he was being tested too by Crowder, who ate some pretty heavy shots from him early and then continued and pushed the pace. And they're almost halfway through the second round when this happened. So who knows where that fight would have went before that happened?
exactly. And I'm not a big fan of Greg Hardy to begin with, full
No.
disclosure.
Hmm.
Um, I thought he was a punk in the NFL.
Yep.
And especially with his off-field, I
Antics.
don't even want to call them antics or shenanigans, because
Yeah.
you cannot make light of
No.
what happened. My personal opinion, I think any man who puts his hand on a woman is a punk to begin with.
Agreed.
Um,
100%.
so I didn't like Greg Hardy to begin with, and I was willing to see him out and say, you know what, let's see how he does in mixed martial arts. Maybe it could be a turning point for him, but after last night, I don't know. I
Yeah.
the jury is still out.
And then I
I
know a
guess
lot
we'll
of
see.
people are joshing on Stephen A. Smith. ESPN kind of
Oh
just
my
chucked him in there. You could tell he really didn't know what he was talking about at the very beginning. He just kind of right before they started the actual show on ESPN Plus, he just kind of rambling almost. It seemed like kind of giving you the runaround and loosey goosey, and and it ended up being T.J.
the
Dillashaw who was loosey goosey on the ground.
the best was the screenshots
Yes.
of the faces. Is classic. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I like listening to Stephen A, but only because sometimes what he says is so
Hmm.
ridiculous, and the way he says it is comical.
Definitely.
Um, but last night he was clearly out of his element and should not have been.
No, not at all. I mean, I'm
There
a
are so
firm
many other
believer.
people they could have found to fill that
Exactly.
spot, especially on your first night. Major platform introducing UFC into into the
Hmm.
ESPN family, if you want to call it that, and you throw Stephen A. Smith in there. It's like,
Yep.
nah.
And I definitely wasn't a fan of the choice. Whether it was Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, or um, what's his name from the boxing community? I can't remember his name, but um, I agree 100%. I think there's other people they could have put there to be the ESPN representative and kind of bring it in ringing the new era of ESPN with MMA, but it just wasn't a good fit. You could tell he didn't know what he was really talking about, and it was kind of lost. So it was unfortunate.
Exactly.
So, yeah, craziness. So, Mike, anything else that you're doing within the MMA community or within just ring announcing in general? I know you have you're looking for always work to do that. Tell us a little bit about what you're up to and what you're looking for.
Oh yeah, I'm always looking to work with other promotions. I'm always looking to work with
Hmm.
other fight promotions, promoters. I'm always connecting. I've been chatting frequently with a fellow by the name of Tom Kilkenny with
Hmm.
ACC Mixed Martial Arts. Great guy,
Yep, very good guy.
Fan- fantastic guy. And the funny thing is, him and I chat about everything from mixed martial arts to old school hip hop.
Yep.
Oh yeah, mixed martial arts to old school hip hop. Tom is a great guy. Him and I have been chatting back and forth, but I have always been looking to um, expand into new promotions. So if there are promoters out there and you're looking for a new voice, or you have an open slot for me, reach out to me. I'm here. I'm available. Even if you're just curious if I'm available for a certain date, definitely reach out, and I will be more than happy to try to fulfill your request if I can.
Hmm.
Boxing, mixed martial arts, pro wrestling, or even grappling. If you have an event coming up, let me know. Let me know, and I'll do my best.
Definitely, definitely. Well, Mike, I am looking forward to seeing you on the 9th. Get to chat with you again.
Oh yeah.
Um, any I always ask this to the fighters, so I'm going to ask it to you. What's one thing about you that nobody knows but you'd like to share with everyone?
I am a fantastic cook.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
not. I'm not even gonna. I'm not even gonna. I'm gonna be like a peacock spreading my feathers. I make a mean dinner. Uh, any fighters in the Albany area, if you're hungry, want a home cooked meal, come on over.
Awesome.
I'm your guy.
What's your go-to dish? What's your favorite thing to cook?
Oh, chicken riggies. I'm a Utica
Okay.
boy, born and bred, so it's always chicken riggies, tomato pie,
Awesome.
um, mushroom stew. I'm Italian, so
Hmm.
it's kind of it's a law. I have to learn to cook Italian food. Um, it's funny, with the new year, everybody's talking about New Year's resolutions and want to eat healthier. One of my friends tells me, he says, first thing you got to do, man, you got to cut out carbs. And I'm like, no, no. If I did that, my grandmother, God rest her soul, would come back to life, slap me, and
Yep.
then,
You cut out carbs. That's when that's. I'm a big guy. I'm always trying to diet and stuff. And then they say cut out carbs. Same thing. Eat more protein. You cut out carbs. You're talking pizza, pasta.
nope,
Yeah,
can't
it's all
happen.
out the window, and I can't do that. It's just too tough.
Can't happen.
Yeah. Twist my arm all you want. It's not
It just
happening.
can't happen.
Yeah. It makes it difficult. Well, I appreciate coming on. Anyone you want to thank and give a shout out to?
The first group of folks that I want to thank is my family, plain and simple. Without family,
Hmm.
the old Godfather line, without family, a man is nothing.
Definitely.
That is true.
Hmm.
My wife and my daughter, on nights when I am away to do, whether it's Cage Wars, Albany Patroons basketball, which they have a home game coming up on February 1st at the Armory, by the way.
Nice.
Look them up on Google, Albany Patroons basketball. Um, whether I'm doing Cage Wars, basketball, pro wrestling, football, or whatever, and I'm away from home, it's my wife, Sarah, is here with the little one and, sacrificing her time. So I want to thank her for starters, thank her for her patience and, being there when I'm away. But really anybody who's ever supported me, in um, announcing wrestling, football, anyone even folks that send me messages on Facebook to say, hey, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. I want to say thank you. The support is fantastic. I love it. I love each and every last one of you guys. Thank you to yourself and Will.
Thank you.
You guys are big supporters of me every time we catch up at Cage Wars.
Hmm.
Thanks to Cage Wars for giving me a platform. Um, and thanks to anybody who has ever given me a chance. the Albany Empire, the Albany Patroons, RPI men's and women's basketball. They've given me a chance to exhibit my talent, and I thank them for that 100%. But thank you to anybody who's ever supported me. I really appreciate that. Friends, family, strangers, anybody.
Awesome. Well, before I let you go, because it's 2:46-ish, and football's about to start, and I know you're a football fan. For those who are watching, make sure you follow the YouTube channel, Giblitz77, Giblitz 77, for this interview, as well as many others, with fighters from Bellator, UFC, Cage Wars, ACC, Triton Fights. They're all there.
Mm-hmm.
Check out the the Facebook and Instagram page at Carroll's Corner MMA, and then Twitter as well. Check it all out. MyMMAnews.com. Visit the website, your number one source for MMA news. Before I let you go, what are your predictions for today?
Oh, man. I hope the Patriots lose.
Awesome. That makes two of us.
The NFC Championship is kind of a toss-up for me because I like both teams.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Saints. I like the Rams. The Rams are kind of I hate to use the term Cinderella story, but a couple of years ago the Rams were kind of a joke, and now they're one of the best teams in the league. So that one I think is a toss-up. I'm with you 150% against the Patriots. I am a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs and anybody who plays against the New England Patriots.
Well, first time ever they're hosting an AFC Championship game. The AFC Championship trophy is named after their original owner, Lamar Hunt. So they're looking to bring that home. First time they're hosting it in Arrowhead. It'd be awesome if they win this, go to the Super Bowl for the first time since 1970, 49 years. It would be amazing.
I do. Before we go, I do want to give one last shout out. I want to give a shout out to a gentleman by the name of Mark Fredo. If the name is not familiar, Mark is a boxing ring announcer. You've probably seen him a lot on ESPN.
Okay.
He does a lot of Golden Boy promotions. Golden Boy owned by Oscar De La Hoya.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give a shout out to Mark. He's kind of helped me a little bit along in my ring announcing career, kind of morphing from basketball to boxing, giving me pointers here and there. He's helped out a lot, and he's really helped me up my game as a ring announcer. So I want to give a shout out to Mark and a shout out to his company, Lineker Media. Look him up. Fantastic company. Awesome. Fantastic guy. Fantastic company.
Well, Mike Falvo, I appreciate you coming on 100%. It was awesome speaking to you. Always a pleasure talking with you.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Make sure you guys check it out, MyMMAnews.com, your number one source for MMA news. And this is Carroll's Corner MMA podcast with Mike Falvo today. And we are out. Thank you.